Okay. Okay, so welcome everybody to tonight's committee meeting, and welcome to anybody who's watching the recorded version of this Zoom meeting. We're going to begin. So I don't have my regular agenda in front of me here, so I'm going to be using the agenda on the screen. The record of attendance will allow anyone to announce any conflict of interest of which they might be aware. And if there's nothing there, then we'll go on to the next point on the agenda, which is unfinished business, the COVID-19 update. And so this is something that changes dramatically every time we get together. So what do you have to tell us today, Dan?
I was just going to go over the provincial EMO stuff. Of course, as everyone's aware, that we've switched to a new phase now, and the province. This link in our presentation takes you to the provincial website. Number of cases, we're still at the 121. There's only one active case in New Brunswick, but we've done very well that way. And the next step in the COVID report at the news conference to the new color code, I should say. This was the press release on that about the new general guidelines. Now there's in the yellow level that's been released. This is sort of the areas that have been opened up. Now some of the issues that we've had, they're allowing gatherings of 50 or more people, religious services, weddings, funerals. 50 people or fewer may take place indoors or outdoors with physical distancing. Elective surgery started. Low contact team sports permitted. Sports may operate as per guidance provided by their respective and national or provincial organizations. Now, where they talk about being open under this yellow phase is swimming pools, saunas, water parks, gyms, yoga, dance studios, rinks, rec facilities. One thing that we're finding from an administrative point of view is that in this new phase, the province hasn't provided a lot of the detailed requirements under this phase. Like say, for example, with the day camp, there was a whole list of criteria that we had to meet. But now, for example, with playgrounds, they're allowed to be open now, but there's been no guidelines issued along with it that are very detailed. So for municipalities' perspective is what do we do there? Do we have to staff them all the time just to ensure physical distancing? So there's been a lot of issues have come up from this new phase for communities and trying to figure out what does it mean when the province say you can open, but without giving guidelines where we have to have an operational plan on file in case we're inspected. Like it certainly would make things a lot easier if the province would have sent around, for example, for swimming pools or playgrounds, for example, that look here, if you are going to open, you need to be able to do this, this, and this, and you can't do this, this, and this. Where in some cases there's 100 municipalities trying to draft up policies and procedures for something that we don't know what the gold bar is. And there could be, you think on the provincial side of it too, that there could be, 10 different inspectors around the province that all might have a different interpretation. So it would have been a lot simpler. And we're sort of hoping the government will move towards that. So that was sort of the big announcement last week. And a lot of communities are trying to find their way through that. I guess I'll talk later on about, with ours, where we're at.
Joining a Zoom meeting, you'll see a video preview pop up that prompts you to determine whether you'd like to join the meeting with your video enabled or disabled by default. Simply select the option to join into the meeting.
Oh, I think that might be you.
Selected. Joining and configuring your audio and video.
Oh, yeah. Okay. so that's what I had on that. I'll back to the
I can't hear.
Oh, how's that? Everybody good now?
I can hear you.
Nope, but
I'm good. Cindy, can you hear?
Not very good. Don't know why.
Do you have any speakers or anything, or earbuds that you can plug in, or?
Well, I listen to the news all day on this. Don't have
Yeah.
trouble.
No, I find in Zoom, I usually need some sort of help to hear what the computer says.
Whether you're connecting multiple conference rooms or meeting with attendees from their desktop or mobile devices,
Paul, I think that's you.
Paul.
it's as simple
Yeah,
as
that's Paul. You can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lost my picture and I was trying to get it back here, but I don't know where it went. You hear me?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'll quit trying to find it. I'll just listen.
Whenever we hear that voice, Paul, you get a nice gold box around you, you see? And it's all like, this is the person who's bringing in the guest or whatever you're doing.
Okay.
Oh, okay, so I guess we'll continue on then. So the municipal update then.
Yeah, so what we've got scheduled so far is opening up our office, just the municipal office, to the public. Due to our limited space here, we can only allow one person at a time in the building, and we'll be doing a sort of a sign on the door with self-screening, letting people know that only one allowed in at a time, that if they see somebody at the counter, please step back till they exit the building. So we're going to start that tomorrow. As far as I know, the other municipalities, we're the first one in the valley to open back up, as far as I know, to the public. The other municipalities are opening up over the next week or so, my understanding. The marina and boat launch, we're getting ready to install those. The fellows took the docks down today for the boat launch area. So we're trying to come up with to finalize the stipulation on the marina. My understanding is right now that it's still social distancing the best everyone can at the marina. It'll be the responsibility of the boat owners to ensure the safety and regulations are met on their boat. It'll be the municipality's responsibility to ensure that everyone knows the rules of the marina and what's expected of everyone. But the onus will be back on the boat owners when they're out on the water, of course, or when they're on their boat tied up to the docks. So the municipal staff will keep an eye on it if we're set up there with the TIC this summer. So right now, a lot of things are still up in limbo. As I mentioned, a lot of communities are still trying to figure out what they're going to do with their summer programs and summer students. The summer students for our community this year, it's been very discouraging, let alone with the COVID stuff, the reduction in grants that we have this year. It sort of appears right now that we may only get to two, maybe 3 employees compared to 15 on grants we had last year between the so that's a big kick in the shorts for the community and also for the students who appreciated getting those jobs in the summertime. So hopefully something will change and we'll get an announcement from the province or federal government announcing more positions for the municipality. So hopefully that'll be the case. So a lot of this will depend on what council and other communities also decide what to do about summer programs. And a lot of communities are wrestling with the idea of being safe for their staff and their residents, but also what can we safely provide our programs. Like, for example, the province came out with the things on low contact sports are allowed. But the issue with that is, they didn't provide detailed information around that. They're sort of leaving it up to the sport associations and then putting it back on the municipalities that if we'll allow it. So there seems to be a lot of balls up in the air and nobody seems to have a lot of answers for us. Like say, for example, if the playground, that if we're going to supervise that, how do we do that? Is a sign posted acceptable by the province or is it not? So we've got to get a lot of those questions answered over the next few weeks. So I guess what we've been doing, we've come up with sort of some employee guidelines that I sent a draft document around the council, and they were based off the town of Riverview, did a great job on that. So we're looking to adopt that. So what we're trying to do is get all of our employee guidelines and our operational plans completed by the next council meeting in early June, and hopefully then council will be able to make the decision on what we're doing. Now, the Western Valley, oh, sorry, Sheila?
You're on mute, Sheila.
I wondered if, I was working with another group on some of these, and are we going to measure each room that we own and tell them the exact, and put the capacity on the outside of the door? So, because we have to do that, I know, so I want to make sure that, and the playground, I wonder if the directions that were sent to the daycares who have playgrounds, if those would work for the playgrounds otherwise, or is that, there's, how many times they have to clean them down and all this stuff. So you might be able to get some information there.
Yeah, and what we're doing also, the Western Valley rec directors and the administrators in the valley, we're all trying to try to get we have some feedback coming from somewhere. Yeah, so the Rec Director Association is meeting, and I sent out another document this afternoon, sort of showed a template of something Justine drafted up for the Western Valley Rec Directors who are trying to find out how we could open each particular program and facility and the guidelines, like Sheila said, to go along with it. So those are some of the things we're wrestling with. So we're hoping to have our operational plans and our employee guidelines done by the next council meeting. Now, we're gonna have to do a lot of communication with council in the meantime, especially around things like swimming pools. They seem to be a hot topic. Some communities, from what my understanding is, are planning on opening. Some communities are planning on not opening. It'd be nice in the Western Valley if we could come up with a unified position on it, one way or the other. But ultimately, it'd be up to each council to make the decision what they feel is right for their community. Like, for example, if a smaller community only has 20 people to a public swim, versus us on a hot day where we'd have over 100 people to a public swim. There's different issues and liability issues that come up along with that, and how do you manage it by limiting the number of people, extending hours, how do you ensure physical distancing and all that. So there's a whole lot of issues around that, and of course the staff safety and the resident safety. Like, for example, the minibus rental. For example, what does council want us to do about renting the minibus?
I think we park it for now.
Yeah.
It's so funny to think that the more popular something is, the less likely it is that we can do it safely. Like you said, if 100 people go to a swim, or if there's 35 people that want to ride the bus, well, not 35, 20, the more popular it is, the more it would actually pay and bring more pleasure, the harder it is to make it happen safely. And if only a couple people want to use it at a time, low usage means we could probably manage that better. It's just a very weird set of circumstances.
No, extremely. And again, it's back to the appetite that each community has for the risk, their comfort level with opening things.
So then in terms of students, so who, like, if we wanted to do a lot of stuff that usually we would hire students to do, would we just hire a bunch of students and be paying their wages ourselves? Like, is the programming what we start with, what we want to do, or do we start with how many students we have and then what can we do? Like, we wouldn't really start with the student pool, right? That's like the tail wagging the dog, is it?
Yeah, I would think it's different if you have grants. Like, say, for example, if we had 10 grants for kids and you fill in where they want to work and what programs and things. But I think for this year, unfortunately, it's sort of, we're going to work the other way. It'll be based on, well, what is it we're actually going to run this summer, and what do we need for maintenance, and what do we need for staffing? For example, the Tourist Information Center, are we going to staff that or not, and things. So a lot of those, the staffing decisions will get back to what does council want to operate. Now this year too, and in the chart, I don't know if you noticed that we sent out for the staff one, or for the programs one, there's a column in there for staffing costs. So once we get a better feel of what the regulations are, we'll be able to put a dollar number to it. Like say, for example, if the playgrounds need to be staffed, and we come back and say, well, look, if we have to hire a summer student to be there from 8 to 5 each day, the total cost is $800 a week. We don't know what to do in the evenings type thing. So there'll be there'll be a big dollar amount attached with all these programs if we have to staff them. So then council, I guess, will have to pick and choose which ones they would like to do or not do. And
So today you're mostly just telling us that we're gonna have to make some tough decisions next time when you have a bit more information in that big chart.
yeah, basically, and hopefully we'll have some more information on how we can do this stuff safely, and what the government feels are safe procedures.
But ideally, we could do the most if all we needed to do was put up signage and say, be sure if you're gonna be on this playground, you wipe it down first and wipe it down after, but we didn't need to have a human there. Like, if we could do everything with a sign, we could have a lot of things open. But the question is whether they'll let us just do a sign, right?
Right on, for certain things. Like, for example, the courts, opening those up. I think just as long as we go in and sanitize it twice a day, I think we good. We still have to sign and put all the information with it. But.
Yeah. That twice a day thing always seems crazy to me because or even thoroughly cleaning something at the end of the day. I mean, it's overnight, the germs might evaporate or whatever they do anyways. It's all day long. It's kind of like after each user. That would make more sense. But anyways, I get what you're saying there. I'll just take a quick look at all the councilors. Sheila, you have something to say.
The tennis courts, I know how we can do that safely because everyone just has, there was a cute little video about that. What do you do? But the basketball courts, they would be sharing a ball. What do we do there? Are we responsible or is that up to them?
That's the question, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a lot of the issues. Yeah. Those sports with shared balls are an issue.
Yeah.
And then, of course, too, if you're playing basketball, how do you physical distance? But now they're saying light contact sports are acceptable.
Yeah. And then again, if you're touching the ball with your hands, but if you're playing tennis, you're not necessarily, well, I guess when you're serving or whatever, but yeah, anyways, it's a mess. I'm just going to check.
I'll send you a video on tennis if you haven't seen it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Okay, it looks like we can continue on then.
Yeah, I guess the next one, the 3 months are up. I just want to give council, originally we talked about the electrical discount going for a 3-month period. So that was for March, April, and May. And I think, I guess I just want to get feedback. Council talked originally about May, want to review that about possibly extending it for 3 months. So if council is interested in that, I'll put on the agenda for our June meeting about extending it. We did in the first 2 months. The discount that we gave was unfortunately a bit lower than we projected, just because consumption was down considerably. I believe in the first 2 months it was just over $16,000 was the discount. Originally we thought it'd be in the 25 to 30,000 range for the 3 months. So it looks like it'll be light on our forecast. It looks like it'll be somewhere in the $22,000 range.
I'm just glancing at the counselors. It looks to me, oh, Sheila, yeah, go ahead.
I think we need to consider the 3 months extension because the businesses who have reopened have to do it at very low capacity and is still being a financial strain on them.
I agree.
I agree.
Let's put on the agenda for the June meeting then.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Moving on.
I guess the next thing we had was the boardwalk project. I guess council had the pleasure of going over there today to finalize the layout and details of that. So that was great. And we'll get the tender out for the curbing now. Our staff or contractors, whichever we find is the best way to do it, will take out the existing curb. Gagnon's construction finished the pole relocation, the base installation, got the wires opening conduit for the lights that were relocated. We have the banners installed on those. So the tenders that we'll have going out right now will be the curbing and the painting of the railing and the concrete work. Any of the site work we'll do with our guys and our equipment. We found using the Willie there with the small bucket on the front was a big help for getting the sand in around for Gagnon, and it was a nice little vehicle the way it articulates in the middle to use over there on the street where it's tight for space. A lot easier than running the backhoe around there. So that was well. Unfortunately, it's where we're starting late, where we wanted to hold off because of the COVID outbreak this spring. The project will take a little longer during the summer than we'd originally hoped, but it'll be nice to get the project going and get it completed.
Okay.
Okay. And on the other branding and website project, had a discussion with Outreach Productions on that again today. They're back in their office finally after employees are working from home in some hours. So hopefully they're going to have something on our website project to me by the end of the week on revamping the website. Of how we'd like to see that go. Right now, our website, as a lot of people are aware, is not friendly to mobile devices as much as it should be, and maybe even to some people's laptops, I'm told.
Yeah, it needs a whole new approach. So
yeah. So we're going to get that going, and that's all part of the branding project also. So we'll have a draft back for council on that soon. And the Green Space Project, I'll touch on that briefly. Talked to Dan Glenn Group today. Will have hopefully something to us by the end of the week this week.
Oh, good.
Initial draft on that. And that's for the property over on the south side of the old arena property.
And that's the Rotary Club will be reimbursing the village for the cost of that. They kind of set aside up to $5,000, I think it was, for that. So.
Okay. Oh, great. And then some other project that we'd like council to consider, as you can see from the screen there, these are pictures of the tennis and basketball courts. The tennis courts especially are in bad shape. They need some love. I don't know if it's to the point where they need to be resurfaced or just resealed. So I'd like to get a company that does the resealing to take a look at it just to make sure that that's all we can do. The basketball court doesn't need to be repaved or anything. It's in decent shape. There's a few hairline cracks in the asphalt at the tennis court, so I'm not sure if we can properly seal those. Now, one thing that we can do, Justine showed me some plans the other day where we could do a multi-purpose tennis court / pickleball court. Pickleball is getting extremely popular, so there's a way to paint lines on the tennis courts. The back end of the court could be used for pickleball. Apparently with us older folks, it's something that we like because we don't have to run as much. So
I think Jason has something to add.
Yeah, I was just going to ask too, like on the tennis courts there, if you notice along the back side of it where the overgrowth is, that seems to be where a lot of the stuff that's happening on the court surface itself is coming from. And are we looking at making sure we trim that back a little bit too, I'm assuming?
Yeah, we're fortunate, Jason, now, especially with the man lift on the Willie, we're thinking we can reach in over the fence and trim all that stuff down. This plan. So I guess with that, does council want me to go to tender to get prices on resealing those?
I would, yeah.
I think I would, because those are the ones that we're sure they can use this summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be resealed and repainted.
Yeah. Well, they are kind of free for people to use when they like, as opposed to us having to deliver something and have all the work of figuring out how to keep people. I mean, it's a self-serve kind of a thing, and people are going to be staying home more this summer than they ever have before, probably because there's not as many places we're allowed to go. So
Yeah.
The other thing, And with those, if you have signage on them, telling people how many are the maximum number of people inside and everything like that, that would cover us, so.
Sounds great. Yeah, and this picture I took today, I just took a few pictures of some charming facilities that might need a little love shown to them. The bandstand roof area, as you can see, the shingles are peeling back off that.
I've just got, Jason has a question or a comment.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, when we were having our initial Green Space Committee meetings, that was one of the things that we discussed, was that we do have some facilities throughout the municipality, recreational facilities that are in need of some tender love and care. And we said that really that's our responsibility to look after. We didn't want to put that on that Green Space Committee. And we do. We have stuff like this that we do need to make sure that we kind of upgrade a little bit and make sure it's tickety-boo.
That's great. So I'll put out to tender and get some prices on that. Does anyone want to pick up the shingle colors or anything?
I'd like to see a nice copper colored steel on it.
That'd be pretty.
Would be.
Mhm.
It's
Would
not
last
very-
longer too, wouldn't it?
Well, oh, for sure, it'd last longer, yeah.
Copper steel? Yeah, I can get a price on that.
You can buy steel now that has like a copper tinge to it, make it look like copper, like the color of it.
Yeah, like not real copper steel on there.
But not real copper, no.
No.
Or any color steel would be pretty neat.
Okay. Well, maybe
It might
I'll
be
do that.
interesting to see what the branding company comes back with as a color, just as a thought, right? Like if they come back with a color scheme for us that would look good on a roof or whatever, just a thought.
That would be a good idea.
Okay.
Or possibly thinking about making it look good with the portable building, where they're normally going to be fairly close to each other, and they would look like, you know, they were matching or whatever.
Yep.
Probably this, pretty well anytime I look at the bandstand, it looks like it needs a paint job. I don't know if that's an annual thing. I think I asked one time if that was on our list of annual tasks.
Yeah, it doesn't get done annually. It probably gets done every, I'd say 3 years, 4 years maybe.
And I know that there have been a couple people who have done weddings there, and I know weddings are smaller scale these days than in other
Actually,
times.
You had one, had a wedding there last week, I think.
Yeah, at our bandstand?
Yes, yeah, with 5 people.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah. That's my understanding.
We might as well have it as pretty as possible.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
so I'll
right.
hold off a bit on that till I get some feedback from outreach on the color codes, but I'll in the meantime maybe get some steel roofing options and maybe get some color palettes so I can send around the council, take a look at and see if they have the copper one. All right.
Looks like we're good. Yep.
Is
Okay,
the Angel still down there, Dan?
Pardon, Paul?
I say, is the Angel still down there?
Geez, Paul, it's right down there. I never noticed it. I'll take a look.
I think the Angel is still there, and we should maybe put it away for summer.
She's looking after our community, Paul, that angel, saving us from COVID.
I know, overlooking the community, but we, you know, probably should put it away for the summer and maybe paint it for winter. Fix the lights on it.
Well, I hope it doesn't jinx us, Paul, but we'll get her out of there.
Yeah. Somebody asked me that the other day if we were going to take the Angel out.
Yeah. Yeah. Just tell people
Actually,
if they're
somebody asked me that too. Do we keep that angel there all year? They said, and I said, I don't really know.
COVID angel. It's our COVID angel. We spread that. Yeah. Now, the next slide I have is the couple sections. This is over where you come down from the castle, the sidewalk there. The sidewalk was done, probably 15 years ago, but for whatever reason, this bottom section up about 80 feet or 100 feet there, it's terrible. Like you can see the trip edge on the left where it's all broke up. So where we're doing the work on the boardwalk this summer, this would certainly be a good section we've got the curbing machine here to take and fix it up. And this other section here, this is the wall by the RCMP station that fell in last year. It sort of hasn't finished falling in, but you can see it's getting a pretty good lean on it. It's not like one around the going up over the hill by Village Automotive, but it's a smaller version of it. So one option here for the municipality would to be take and put those, either replace the same blocks that are there now and try to reshape it and put those back in, or to take and purchase those bigger London style blocks. Well, basically the same ones you see in the photograph on the left, in the top right hand corner, that we installed up around the hill there. Those are obviously more substantial and more sturdy, and they certainly last longer and take the abuse from the plows. But then having said that too, they're a bit more expensive obviously than those little tiny blocks, but they do a better job. So if
But how many
council
times have we done this?
Right, we've done it a few times now.
So
I think
if
I
it's
think
worth
it's one
paying,
we've
Yeah.
been picking them up and putting them back, I think.
yeah, I think it's worth spending more and doing it so that we don't have to redo it every year.
Yeah.
Or 2 or 3.
Yeah, I agree.
And
I
when it
agree.
blows out like that, it looks so sloppy. Like even if
Yeah.
it's all intact, but it's kind of bending and twisting, or not twisting, but
Yeah.
it just looks crummy.
Now, one thing that I don't know if people noticed too, we put the London blocks by the, maybe Dave could comment on this too. We put the London blocks where the little road that goes down into the boat, to the old boat dock area by the Wesleyan Church, where you go down into the waterfront park there, that little road. We took where you can sort of see how this slopes up. If you look at how they're installed in that photograph, they're sort of put in horizontally, and then the slope of the road sort of blends into it. What our fellows did, which is easier to install, they just set them in the ground along the grade elevation. So instead of having them benched in, so to speak, like the ones in this photo on the left, those are sort of benched in and they're level. One option over here would be to do that, tooth them in, cut out and put them in so it looks the same as that. Another option is just to lay a block right on that existing grade and have the grade slope down. I don't know, Dave, with DOT, I'm assuming you guys would put them in horizontally, wouldn't you?
You'd put them in horizontally, but doing it by the grade like they did down by the not the boat landing, but the lookout, I guess you are. But
Yeah.
you're saving blocks. You're not using as many blocks. You know, you got a nice gradual slope right there from the RCMP station down. I mean, you could easily put 2 to 3 blocks high and just go straight down the road with it. But I see what you're saying going up into the terrace street there. On lean and you stack back. You one and go.
Yeah, you sort of start at the bottom and pick your elevation, then go one row and then the next row. And
back. It looks nicer that way, I find.
Yeah, there's not a huge, like on the end of Terrace Street, it's quite an elevation there. That's kind of the reason why you had to stack them, right? Whereas at the police station, it's not that great a difference from beginning to end. It might be a block or two maybe, but
I don't
it
know.
wouldn't
I
be
just
bad.
take drive by, look at the ones where they put them on the slope
Yeah.
and see what they think. I agree that those London blocks should be used there instead of those concrete stones.
well, maybe what I'll do then for the next meeting, I'll get a couple of pictures of the London blocks installed there on the slope, but also the ones on Waterfront Park that are just running down the existing slope for you guys to take a look at.
I think that would be useful.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if you're out and around too, stop by and take a look at either one before the next council meeting.
I think legally, or like, what we would do would be what you see in the left-hand picture at work.
Yeah,
Either one.
yeah, I would think so too, Dave.
Yep.
Okay. Yep, so I'll get some estimates on those and the number that we would need to do that project. I'm assuming the materials are probably going to be in the, if I had to guess, in the $15,000 range or something to do that block, and we'll see if we can do those ourselves and install them to save the installation cost.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So now we're up to number 6, the Service New Brunswick office.
Yeah, I guess on that, I sent around to everybody. Mayor Bell sent a very nice letter off to the Premier about that, and I know our MLA's been concerned about it. I don't know, Mayor Bell, if you get any feedback on that or not.
No, all I got was the standard reply from the Premier's email that says he gets a lot of email. We're not going to be able to get back to this one very soon. So I got a phone call from somebody on Friday morning who had been over at Service New Brunswick and thought it should be open, and was even told that by the staff that they're not even told that it will open, or they're not given a date, and it just seemed like really quite murky. And I know Andrew Harvey's been concerned about when maybe they're talking about not opening at all. So I just thought I would throw in my 2 cents on behalf of the council about how we want that to remain, and we need it. I mean, we don't want the whole idea of staying local and staying home and not going to other communities. And, you know, the more of us that are all crowding into an office at Woodstock to do our business, and lots of people, even with all the increase in using technology to do our business, there are some things that you have to do in person at Service New Brunswick, and some people who prefer to. And so that's the gist of the letter. And anybody who, has anybody else had an experience? Or, oh, Sheila, you have something to say here?
Yeah, I had a call from a couple of seniors, and even some who live down in Brookside. You know, they have a problem because often somebody there will give them a drive to Service New Brunswick, or some of them will walk, and I have actually picked some up on their way home, who've walked over, done their business, and given them a ride back because I see them walking back. Woodstock is impossible for them. So it has to be, you know, you have to consider rural New Brunswick. Some of those things are impossible for people who don't have transportation.
So, so we'll see if we get a response and there's something that we can do to press our case further. Well, Dan, do you think there's anything else we can do anything else we can do about this?
Yeah, I don't know, the letter that was sent, I believe was sent to the Premier. I don't know if it would, there'd be any benefit in sending the same letter. I don't know, Mayor Bell, maybe it did get copied to the minister responsible.
It did, yeah. Emailed to her anyways. I don't know if she got a mailed copy, but when I emailed it to the Premier, I emailed it and I CC'd it to the minister.
Okay. It probably wouldn't hurt to call the minister's office at some point either.
Okay.
Could you consider or sending a copy to the other leaders of the other parties?
Well, I don't really, like, I'm not trying to make this.
Yeah.
I don't normally do that. Like, usually I just think the ones that are in office, they're making decisions. I guess I don't really want it. I'm not trying to give ammunition or whatever to the other party. I mean, I'm just not.
Okay.
But I mean, what I could do though, is I could release the letter to the paper. I could send a copy of it to Victoria Star, to the Black Fly, and then they could.
I was just going to say, I know it was a question that was asked at the press conference on Friday, that he's feeling the pressure from other areas too.
Yes, yes.
And that copy of your letter did go out today, Mayor Bell, to the local media outlets?
Oh, okay, I did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Part of the council package this evening. Yeah.
Oh, right, yes, of course, okay.
Okay, that's good. As long as they have it, they might jump on it too.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe it might be a thought here to maybe touch base with the mayor of Plaster Rock and maybe Florenceville Bristol, because that's the ones that are being affected. The SNB in Plaster Rock, Perth Andover, and Bristol Florenceville.
Well, see, I know Andrew Harvey has been sending emails to all of his mayors in his riding, and showing us, copying us in on emails that he's mailing to mostly the Minister of Service New Brunswick. So definitely there is aware of the issue, as I am from Andrew. And presumably somebody was explaining to me that, I can't remember just who, that about how Plaster Rock does additional kinds of things to do with trucking licenses, I believe, that we don't do. So I kind of thought, if I write my spiel, and like presumably Plaster Rock would do their own, I'm not Are you saying, Paul, like try and write a joint letter or just try and
Well,
encourage?
I would think, same as like, joining together when we're having hospital problems, all the communities come together and, the mayors of Plaster Rock, Perth Andover and Bristol Florence will come together and maybe do a letter, and in numbers, we seem to get more things done than one person attacking the Higgs government. They just kind of flub it off and put something out in the media from those three mayors. I think that would be more clout.
So my letter's already gone. So what I could do is I could send an email to the other mayors and say, I've already sent a letter, here it is attached. Is there interest in sending a joint letter? And
Yeah.
see, because once I've sent my own letter, to say the same thing again in a joint letter may or may not be that particularly effective. But I could ask them if I could at least send them a copy of my own letter and say, do you want to get in on this or whatever?
Yeah.
I could do
Plus,
that.
it's affecting them just as much as it's affecting us. It's
Yeah.
very inconvenient for everybody that lives in the rural New Brunswick here. Either you got to run to Evanston, Grand Falls, or Woodstock, or Fredericton.
Yeah. Okay. Just checking to see if anybody wants to say anything else. Looks like we're good. Okay. Number 7, trail repairs.
I guess we had a question on the trail repairs. We had a washout on the trail down below the Legion property this year, and we reported it to the province, and the province hired a local contractor to do the repairs. I believe Alcon did the repairs on the trail, got it all back in shape again. The province, I guess, basically coordinated the whole project. We just told them that it was the damage was done, and we were surprised that it was repaired as quick as it was. So that was good. The province was right on it and got it repaired, which was nice.
So that's which department? Which provincial department?
I don't know if that's tourism, Mayor Bell, or not. I'd have to check to see which one.
I've seen along the trail, I've been walking along on the trail, and there seems to be some trees cut here and there on the Perth side as well, below town and in town. And I just was wondering, is that our people that would be doing any kind of cleanup work along there, or who else might be doing work on the trail?
Well, if it's just the odd tree here and there, it's probably residents doing it, if I had to guess. That people are seeing stuff down and just fixing it on their own. The province doesn't have a crew that goes around like they used to.
Right.
They're more just hiring contractors in local areas when they have an issue, or paying the municipalities to do the repairs or upkeep.
Yeah, and we don't particularly try and maintain the trail. Like in the village limits, we kind of keep our eye on it, but we don't invest a lot of money in the trail in town. Like it's.
Well, the municipality paid for the original asphalt for the trails in town, and we do try to keep the mowed back a mower width on each side of the trail in the summertime.
Yeah, and we do our mowing twice a year, right?
Yeah, and if we have a tree come down on it, we'll go in and clean it up or something. But
okay, I wanted to have that clarified because if anybody had seen work, and Valcon's quite, they use social media a lot to show work that they do. And so when they do work on something that is in the municipality that people might think we arranged, I like us to all know who did it and who's paying for it. Otherwise, it might be people assuming that we made a decision on something and we're wondering why, and it wasn't us that did it. So I just like to make sure that's clear. Okay, we're good. Then we'll move on to the burn ban.
yes, this has been a popular item for discussions. I received a long text message from one of our residents on it on the weekend about the burning and their concern. They have for a few issues in the community, but there's been some questions around that. From my understanding, the original emergency measures burn ban was put on to keep firemen from having to go to as many calls. Of course, you can't social distance in the fire truck, so The burn ban originally was to prevent anyone from having fires and hopefully eliminate some calls to for the fire guys to go out. Now, my understanding in that first burn ban, what I'm told today, is that you were allowed to have residential fires in fire pits and things like that as part of that original one. But the burn ban that's been on now for the past a week or so has been based on the dryness in the forest and things. So it's the burn ban that's enforced by DNR, my understanding is that basically no outdoor fires. But if you are, the ones that are permitted are ones that are in a fully enclosed CSA approved outdoor burning, is my understanding, and propane stoves. Now, my understanding that the propane fireplaces are a permitted use with DNR. In our community, where we don't have a burning bylaw, we go by the provincial burn order, whatever's in effect, and DNR will enforce that in the municipality where we don't have our own bylaw. So
that's an important thing. So if you go on the provincial site, and like I have, there's an FAQ about when is the fire season, can I do a bonfire, what about propane, all this sort of thing, where do I get a permit, blah, 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 blah. We don't have any special dealies in the town. And our local firefighters might say, or they might, if they say that we have special permission in the town to do something, blah, 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 it's not the case. We don't have particular provisions that are different from the provincial regulations in our municipality. That's the case, right?
Right on. Yep. Because
I was asked by somebody on the weekend, 2 different cases of somebody saying that firefighters had told them that blah, 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 blah was allowed. Was that the case? And our firefighters cannot, it's all whatever the province's rules are. And I've been posting them on Facebook, but I think I wouldn't mind if we could put some links to all, like, so there's a thing about grass burning on the provincial site, and there's a page on backyard fireplaces and the FAQ. I think maybe we could use this stuff in our weekly newsletter or on our website, because there's a lot of confusion out there, and we just really, especially in these particularly dry days with the pandemic, we just can't have people thinking that there's exceptions to all the rules. Sheila, you have something?
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea to have our fire chief check with the regulations about each different type of fire pit. Like there's the fire pits, and then there's the control, the enclosed ones, and then have some information given to his fire department so that they're all getting the same answer. I think it would be good, because I had questions on the weekend too, and they said, well, fire department said you could. And so I think they need to be informed too, and make sure they're giving out a common answer. So if they could get from the department what it is, and they could break it right down to the different types of fire pits that are available, the CSA approved ones and everything, so people know what is allowed.
Well, and I think that in addition to putting information on our village website, the Perth Andover Fire Department has a Facebook page. I forget if they have a website as well. But anyways, whatever they have on social media does not outline fire rules. Yeah. And that doesn't even link to the province. And I think we can encourage the fire department to provide that information on their social media too. Mm-hmm. So, and I'd encourage everyone on the council to take a few minutes. I'm just sort of really into this right now because it's so darn dry, and everybody around is burning fires. I might just happen to send you some things while I'm sending them to Dan and Justine for the town. I'd encourage everybody on the council to really to find the information from the provincial sites and really know what you're talking about if you get questions. So the other question that I could not get an answer to is, what should a person do if someone is having a fire in their yard or they're burning grass when it's not allowed? Like, what should people do if they're seeing somebody not abiding by the burn ban. And as I've said before, I'm not trying to encourage people to report on others in the community. So I guess there's a question of if you felt like somebody was being reckless with a fire, but on the other hand, if there's a burn ban and somebody's still having a fire, some people would define that as reckless. Like what do we tell people to do if they're seeing or suspecting violations of a burn ban?
Yeah, my understanding is that DNR is the enforcement agency for that, and I believe that for forest fires, so to speak, reports, I believe those go through 911, but I don't believe 911 wants calls for people having fire in their backyard. So I'll keep the details on that and let you know.
Okay. So does anybody know if you asked a firefighter in our town, hey, what should I do if people are ignoring the burn ban, what our fire department tends to say, or is it as individual as the individual members? Has anybody ever talked to firefighters and said, what should I do? What should I do? Everybody's talking at the same time. Okay, Dan, so if you can get some answers, because I don't know, maybe it will boil down to if you really think somebody is really taking serious risks, what, who do you call or whatever. But I don't want to encourage gratuitous reporting of neighbors on neighbors. Like, that's not the kind of community we want, but it's a pretty serious business sometimes.
Yeah, and we've had issues over the years with the wood fires with residents, like that people don't show proper consideration of their neighbors by having fires where the smoke's drifting over into their yard and people just put their laundry out and all that stuff. We've had those typical things, but the fire department originally had asked for council discussed several years ago a burning bylaw. But after we walked through with the fire department about who's going to enforce it and how we were going to do it, council felt at the time, let's just follow with the provincial burn order and let DNR look after the enforcement. So having said that, that lacks some with these small fires in people's yards and things that aren't being considerate.
So Dan, with municipalities that have a fire bylaw, do they have stricter rules or do they have looser rules? They can't have looser rules than the provincial rules, can they? No,
I don't believe so. And then some of the issues may be, for example, in the type of zone that you're in. For example, in some of our R1 residential areas where the homes are on 60, 80 foot wide lots, you might have different regulations for those than the rural residential area that are an acre lot. So there some places I believe do have some different regulations even within the municipality depending on where you live.
Okay. Anybody want to ask a question or comment on that? Okay. All right. So we can move on. Thank you for that. Oh, media questions. And I don't believe we have media with us live. So at this point, then we're going to end the public recording and thank people who are watching this session, the recorded session, and then we will have a motion to move in camera for some confidential matters. Is that the case?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So I guess we'll have a motion to go in camera and then we'll stop the recording. Sheila?
That.
Okay. And do I need a second? Why should I ask that?
Second.
Cindy? Was that Cindy?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor of going in camera? Say aye.
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 Okay, so now we'll stop the recording.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone.